They don't look like they were having fun at this event. I say a lack of creativity and this happens. So this is the flip reset goal here. Justin and Squishy were very close at the time. Why, hello there everybody. We are going into the Season 6 Grand Final. Before we get started, I just want to share a crazy little anecdote that happened. I just recorded the Season 5 Final and then I walked down to get a coffee. As I mentioned in the last one, I've had a nice haircut, so I look good right now when I was out in public. I just got recognised going to get my coffee. So shout out to Mark. It was lovely to chat to you. But also, I'm very thankful that it was at a time where I was looking appropriate because we took a picture and I do not always dress up for, for coffee. I can tell you that now. Sometimes I look like I'm half asleep or dead. So good timing on that. Anyway, let's get into the RLCS Season 6 final. So this one is one that I have very much blanked from my memory. Main reason being I was on Vitality at the time. We just signed Scrub Killer in place of Freaky. You know, we're expected to do well. I think we came third in league play, and then we did the third versus sixth playoff and lost to PSG. So PSG took our spot, and to be honest, it's one that I tried to forget. I didn't really watch much of it. It was in Vegas at the time. It was, considering Season 5 went so well, this was very soon after Season 5. So the sentiment from my point of view was this was not one of my favourite events. So let's have a little watch of this and see what's going on. See what you guys think. If you're a Cloud9 fan, it's probably one of your favourites. But first of all, Final Carpet's beard is gone. This was a pretty big event to see Carpet lose his beard. It looks like a completely different person. But isn't it crazy how many finals Final Carpet did? I think this one was James's first final. He's done a few since then, but I think he did Season 7 and the most recent Worlds. But yeah, like Carpet just was the final man because he was so good at hype. He wasn't a huge analytical color caster, but he was very good at the hype side of color casting. So that's why he was always in the finals. So we had the arena vibe here, but it doesn't have the same feel to the arena of Season 5. I don't know whether it was the audio production, whether it was the crowd itself, but it didn't have that same energy, right?
And Dignitas looking to add a third title to their team's record. Here we go. Are you ready, Las Vegas?
Yeah, so here you can see they flew out Stumpy and Cole, I believe. I don't know where Cole is, to try and build up the hype. But anyway, spot the crowd members. First of all, Art, who worked for Cynix. I don't know if he still does. I think he still does. And then we've got Gilly here and Dreadnought, who both hosted various Rocket League events. Dreadnought did DreamHacks. Gilly did RLRS. So it was cool to see them in the crowd there. But yeah, like Stumpy and Cole really tried to get the crowd going, but it was like they didn't do it themselves as naturally as the London crowd did. And this was sort of where the Let's Go team name stuff came from. But let's watch this first game and see what the quality of Rocket League is like. So this is game 1, Cloud9 versus Dignitas. Dignitas is rebrand at this time. They've gone back to their current brand, but this was that weird rebrand of Dignitas when the Mike Prindeville took over and tried rebranding them completely to an owl rather than the Digi. But yeah, this was the crazy mechanical Cloud9 playstyle coming through. We knew it was possible to do well, but we didn't think it was good enough to win an event. But, you know, when all things line up, this was an amazing playstyle, and it's sort of defined a lot of the future meta. You know, a lot of young players came through after this from Cloud9's era to play that highly mechanical playstyle, start binding directional air rolls, start going for flip resets, start being a little bit crazy and aggressive. And, yeah, I think they really redefined the meta at this time. Like, Dignitas still went on to do well after this. Not after this. Well, yeah, they kind of did after this, once K-Dop left. But, like, at the time, this was, like, peak Dignitas, unbeatable Dignitas. They had E-League afterwards, where they lost again there, so there was another event with the current rosters. But, yeah, Dignitas, very much at this point, were just sort of, I don't want to say bored of winning, but it didn't feel as good anymore. You can see they're like robots. They're like, oh, I guess another final. You know, trying to be the 3 times, the dynasty. And that's when K-Dop left them afterwards, when it wasn't feeling as good. See Yummy Cheeseman there? I think that's Cole to the right there. But you can see it's like very much just this area. They didn't show the whole arena because it was very much like all from that area. They tried to replicate 104. But yeah, gameplay-wise, this doesn't look dissimilar to what we saw at Season 5. In terms of time frame, Season 5 was in July, I believe? No, maybe June. Yeah, it was June. And then this was in November, I believe. Because we had E-League after this. So, like, there was only 5 months between them and not a huge amount of time to develop. And like, the teams are the same as the teams that played in that previous events. There wasn't, like, any major roster moves to change these guys up. So, yeah, it was a very much, like, underdeveloping period of time. But Cloud9 just got better at their mechanical playstyle. As I mentioned before, the Season 5 mechanical playstyle was there. It just wasn't consistent enough. Whereas it got more consistent at this event, where the speed of play and everything was very similar. It was just teams like Cloud9 who were mechanical were able to execute a little bit more consistently. Sounds like I'm underplaying the development in the gameplay, but I think it's just people only remember the winning performances and think that that playstyle wasn't there. Like, the Muffin Men were a mechanical team. Season 4, Squishy did the ceiling shot, you know. They've always been a team that's developed mechanically and been very aggressive and, you know, gimmick upfield with this crazy stuff like this. Like, they've always done that. It was just, this was the event where it all clicked together finally. So, I think that's something to remind you guys, is that a lot of these... Yeah, I just press end on my keyboard. Yeah, I think a lot of people try and remember play styles and things based off of the world champion winning team. And actually, those kinds of moments were happening beforehand. It's just they only became consistent once that team was successful and in people's minds was successful. Like, Dignitas played the controlled playstyle for so long and it just got more consistent as time went on. And like, Gimmick played this aggressive upfield playstyle for a while, and it was just this event where they found that formula to work. And especially around this time, not to try and downplay what the players were doing, but coaching and replay analysis and like high levels of practice weren't a huge thing. And the seasons were really short. The amount of games people played were quite short, so people very much like moved up and down through their playstyle a lot. And like, some days it would work, some days it wouldn't. And so there was very much like a play good on the day feeling with these kinds of teams. We are watching a lot of the same stuff here, but... oh, what the... I hit another button on my keyboard, I hit 0. So yeah, a lot of this wasn't as intentional as people would think it is. But this was the point where things started to change. This is like Season 5, Season 6 was where it started to change a little bit. Like, when I was at Vitality, Season 5... players wouldn't really let me coach. Season 6, players were like, don't want to really want it that much. And then Season 7, it was like, okay, let's start coaching. Let's start having input from outside support. And that was similar. Like, a lot of players started to retire at this point. I believe Chrome was with NRG at this tournament, maybe. You know, Fireburner had retired at this point. Not at this point. That was in Season 7. Fireburner retired after Season 7. And so, like, a lot of the players started retiring around the Season 6 to Season 8 period, and coaching started to come in and become more apparent. So a lot of improvement was just down to grinding. So you can see that, like, just being good at outplaying over and over again was sort of like the Cloud9 playstyle. Oh, the little mini bottles. The little baby bottles. But anyway, let's go through and find the peaks now. Yeah, they were known as robots at the time, but they did start to show a little bit more emotion at this point. Oh, Torment was just so good at saving. Yeah, Torment was just unreal in defense. Torment gets a lot of flack as he's a player who does a lot of selfless stuff. But I think this event he got MVP, so it was kind of the start of him being appreciated a little bit more. I think definitely because Gimmick tends to be the flashy one. Squishy was obviously Squishy, a very good player, all-round player. I mean, they're all very good. Like, it's not trying to take away from any of the players. Like, all three of them have continued to have great success after this roster. So it's definitely like none of them were a weak link in this team. And it very rarely is the case in world champion winning teams that any of them are a big weak link. But like, yeah, this is one of those where Torment was starting to just get so much value. Like, look at that flip reset. Like, these kinds of mechanics were happening in ranked for a good year or so before this, but just didn't ever really come out in RLCS because of the nerves, because of the pressure, because of the speed of play, because it wasn't worth it. It was too risky. But it was cool because this was the first time we saw that kind of stuff happening a lot in a series.
A demo there, Squishy with the shot, follow up from Torment. He hits it.
This was classic Cloud9 at the time. Gimmick doing something weird in the corner, landing, getting a bump on the follow through, and then Torment coming in and cleaning up. And he still does this to this day. Torment has a very high shooting percentage a lot of the time because he comes in and cleans up a lot. So that was a series. No, that was the first game of the second series. So both series were 4-1. So we're now in the second series now, and so you can see that Dignitas's gameplay was weakening as they were just getting more and more lost by what they're up against. And like they made a lot more mistakes as the series went on. And that's sort of what the chaotic mechanical playstyle does. Even to this day, it's just it has to get more chaotic, more mechanical. It's what Moist did so well during their domination. It's what you know, Liquid do really well right now. It's what Furia or I don't want to say Falcons because they do have a lot more structure than some of the other mechanical teams, but these mechanical teams make the opposition feel uncomfortable, and this was the first team that ever just had no respect for Dignitas and just went full mechanical mode against them. And you can see how much it threw them off, like they just didn't know how to deal with it. Because it's the same way with BDS, right? Like, BDS gets so respected by so many teams that people don't want to make mistakes against them. And actually, some of the best ways to play against those super well-structured teams is just to treat it like you got nothing to lose and play super mechanical. And that's what Cloud9 were doing right now. They were just feeling it. Yeah, look. They just won a game, but they just don't look like they're having fun at this event. Like, it doesn't feel as good when it's happening every time. Now look at these mistakes, right? Like this one here. I mean, to be fair, K-Dop did trip on the post. If you look here, he trips on the. This is a bit of the curve on the post, which doesn't quite curve the same. You see there, his car just spun out a little bit as he did it. Oh, that's a fun little shot. I haven't seen this shot before. That's a cool angle. Yeah, there's lack of creativity here. Oh, I say a lack of creativity and this happens, but like, that was a good fake by Turbo. But you see like there, K-Dop just hit it through. Like, that's a really good goal, but at the time, like, this is Dignitas being scared to like pass it to each other because if they got intercepted, they were screwed. But yeah, that was some good creativity. So they had changed their playstyle a little bit for this event to try and be a bit more solo play focused, a little bit more aggressive, follow through bumpy, where previously they were getting away with the infield passes a little bit more. But it might not have been that conscious. It might have just been a lack of trust because, you know, as this team started to age a little bit, they just didn't have as much synergy, you know, which was their biggest strength. But yeah, like the mechanics. Like, I don't think the mechanics are that much higher in this than Season 5. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but like looking at this compared to Season 5, if this was in the same season of RLCS, you'd go, fair enough, that looks like the same level. Because, like I said, there wasn't a huge amount of time between this final and that one. It wasn't a full half year, it was like 5 months. And like, because it was the same teams as well, like there wasn't a huge amount of roster swaps at this point. Amongst the top teams, so yeah, it does feel like a similar level. There was a lack of development between these seasons, despite the what we all remember as the flip reset season, because it was only one flip reset, and it was only one flip reset that led to a goal. There was flip resets in Season 5. There were ceiling shots in Season 5. It was the first flip reset that led to a goal, as far as I know. Okay, let's get to... This is the flip reset, right? So this is the flip reset goal here. So there we go. This is why this season is remembered for being the flip reset season, because of that goal.
There's never a stage too big for that man not to show up.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure
Most talented
season 5 had a lot of flip resets in it too.
and he pulls off a flip reset.
And with that, Cloud9 take the lead. Nets wide open. And Dignitas.
Both of these teams squishy.
But yeah, like, as you can see, like,
Unaware where his last defense
goals didn't need flip resets at this point, right? Season 7 onwards, flip resets started to be game defining. Like, people would get flip reset goals. Like, I remember we scored like 3 to 5 of them in league play at Vitality, and they were all good flip reset goals, and the opposition were broken down, and it made it hard to save, and so on and so on. But like, at this stage, like, simple goals were good enough, so you didn't need flip resets.
trying to keep control.
Just like backboard hits and things like that, and like punishing of mistakes was so common.
All of his boosts.
But yeah, fair play though. It was still a really cool goal, and like it changed the meta. So like, even though it's remembered to be a lot more than it was, it changed the meta, and like Cloud9 changed a lot of people's views of the game. It made people go towards getting directional air roll as a button. Made people more aware of flip resets. Made people practice them a lot more. It changed a lot of people's mindsets. So their performance might not have contained. Their performance might not have contained a huge amount of those mechanics that we said. Like, just across that whole series, it's not a massive part of it, but the highlights always show the most important moments. And so the fact that the highlights showed flip resets, the highlights showed highly mechanical plays, it made people change the way they thought, and the way Gimmick moved was so unique and different. And they sort of changed that side of things. So the fact they took down the Dynasty, it definitely encouraged people to look into it a bit more. So fair play to them. I think a lot of people will remember this fondly for the flip resets, but really it was the end of a Dynasty was the biggest factor here. And obviously Squishy's big moment, you know, this was that team that went to DreamHack unsigned, got picked up by Cloud9. So it was like the first mechanical all-star team that got picked up by a big org by winning a tournament unsigned. You know, it was a fully mechanical team. You know, it was they were a lot more aggressive, and so on and so on. So like, everything about it was really key for the future of Rocket League. So fair play. How's their trophy lift? Gimmick's got one hand on. You got to do the monkey moon flex. But it's pretty straight, slightly leaning towards Squishy because there's not much stability being held by Gimmick there. But oh, this makes me sad seeing Sad Junior and Ian come on. Not for them. Like, it's really cool that they get to share that moment. But at Season 7, I should have just ignored them. I wasn't allowed to go and meet the players after Season 7, and the other Vitality person who was there weren't allowed to go meet the players until they'd done the interviews and done the end of show stuff. So, like, look at the whole like family, like, they all go out and celebrate together. So yeah, like, that's really cool that they got to experience that moment. But it just makes me think, oh, I wish I could have done that Season 7, been there, like, when the emotion was raw rather than after the whole thing had finished. But yeah, like, this is such an important moment in Rocket League history, like we said, because of what it meant for young players. It meant for future pros. It meant for mechanics. It meant for, you know, big orgs coming in and signing unsigned teams. It set so much of a new standard. Also, North America finally winning after Europe has dominated for 5 seasons in a row. Well, 4 seasons in a row, because the first season technically was North America, but the Europe was still the stronger region at the time. So yeah, all of this meant a huge amount. But yeah, like this here, I wish I had a moment like this where I was part of the team picture. But alas, enough about me. Let's talk about how great Cloud9 are. Hey, Dapper giving out the medals. Torment got MVP. Again, if you want to listen to the interviews, you can go check it out yourself. Yeah, this was so sick to see Torment get it, because he was definitely the least valued player on the team most of the time in most people's eyes. But he was so good in defense in this and deserved it. Justin out there. Justin and Squishy were very close at the time.
Production to make this one of the best shows we have ever seen, and of course, huge
Chrome.
congratulations to Cloud9.
Was Chrome with NRG at this point? I think he was. Jarzo. But anyway, that was the Season 6 final. So Cloud9 reshaping the future of Rocket League at this point, starting the North America comeback where North America start to compete with Europe again. The end of the dynasty, K'd up shortly after this, within like a month after this. I guess it's more like a month and a half. Starts looking elsewhere, and then he joins my team Vitality. So we'll get on to Season 7 next time. But at this point, this was a huge redefining moment for the future of Rocket League. So fair play to Cloud9, and we'll be seeing Torment at the Major. So respect to him for still being in the top of the game. As well as Gimmick and Squishy, still on top teams in North America. So fair play. I'll see you in the next video.